I'm getting ready to go out on the 5th flight of the season. I got the airplane all pre-flighted, warmed up, and I just got finished fueling it up. I'm gonna have to move the pickup up on the dock there a little ways so it's out of the way of Scott, Petersburg Flying Service. He's out in the Beaver this morning delivering groceries to Port Protection, to the BBC there that does a port protection show. We're waiting for my rider, and we're waiting for the weather to lift a little bit. As you can see, it's a little bit foggy out here right now. It's supposed to be a nice day today, sunshiny, supposed to be up to 65 degrees, but right now it's a little foggy here. It's lifted from what it was, and if I was going back down to Ernest Sound like the ones we've been doing, then the Narrows and down south here is open and is pretty nice. But we get the influence from the breeze when it's like this. The weather clears up and we start getting northerly. We get the influence off of the glaciers over there, the Baird Glacier, and particularly out of Thomas Bay, and that cold air coming out of there with this little bit of breeze mixes and makes some fog right here in Petersburg and out in Frederick Sound. So anyway, we got to wait for that to lift enough to fly. I suppose I could go out south and climb up on top of it, but I don't like doing that. Looking at the weather camera out at Cape Fanshawe, it doesn't look too bad out there, but looking back this way from Cape Fanshawe, I can see it's foggy out in Frederick Sound there. So waiting a little bit doesn't hurt anything. So my last 4 flights have been down to Ernest Sound to look for herring down there, and we saw herring spawn one day, but that was it. Yesterday we saw signs of herring had spawned, but there was no indication of any fish or no active spawn going on. Just a lot of bird activity feeding on leftover spawn. So that was the last flight for Ernest Sound. Today we start going north here to Hobart Bay and looking up there. So anyway, that's what we're doing here now, is waiting for the weather to improve enough so we could get out of here, go up to Hobart Bay and look for some herring. So this stuff moves through here and it gets better, and then it gets worse, and then it gets better. A few minutes ago, well, right now I can just barely see the top of Petersburg Mountain through the fog right there. A few minutes ago I could see up there pretty good, and I saw about 1,000 sandhill cranes flying at the top of the fog and climbing to get over the mountains there to get some altitude. There's another big flock of sandhill cranes going over, climbing up. Another 1,500 birds there, I suppose, at least. Trailing off there above the fog. Well, there's still a little bit of fog hanging around here, but there's several options for me to get out of here now. I can see up Petersburg Creek real well, and you can see the fog over the top of it. So I've got Katie with me. I'm going to go ahead and taxi out here, do the same old routine of taxiing out, warming the engine up, and then we'll clear the area, turn to the northeast, and take off. I'm making my takeoff run to the northeast. If I was going to go back down to the south again, I'd start turning around and head back to the west and then to the south. I was planning on turning to the west and then going up Petersburg Creek where it was clear. But once I got up here, I could see that the fog layer was really low, and I could climb out on top of it, and it was broken enough underneath it that I could see the water underneath and everything, so that if I did have some kind of an engine problem or something where I quit flying, I could fly down through the fog and safely land on the water. So I went ahead and took off straight out Wrangell Narrows out into Frederick Sound, and then made a turn to the north. So now we're headed to the north. Frederick Sound is underneath us. Kupreanof Island is to the left, and the Alaska mainland, North American continent, is straight ahead of us and to the right. I'm just going by Cape Strait here on Kupreanof Island. The Kupreanof Island kind of turns more towards the west right there. Frederick Sound turns more towards the west. And you can see it there just on the left-hand edge of the screen. We're going to go straight across Frederick Sound over towards Farragut Bay. And I'm going to see here if we can find some herring over there, herring spawn over there on between Bay Point and then the north arm of Farragut Bay. So that's what we're headed to. We're coming up on Bay Point here now. I'm going to turn back towards the north arm of Farragut Bay. It's a little bit too foggy to see anything down through there yet, and the fog, there's a ceiling underneath it, but it's too low to fly underneath it and see anything. Well, we're flying along here, taking a look, and this is going to clear up here pretty soon. It's already getting thinner, so we got to come back this way, so by the time we come back, we'll be able to take another look at it. But as we were going along here, we come out from underneath the fog. We did see a big bunch of sea lions right down here which is a good sign that there's some kind of feed in the water for them. Usually this time of the year it's herring. And then as we got up in here to the north arm, we saw a couple of schools of herring. Well, we're going to circle over those and take another look at them, but there is a little bit of sign. That's the first we've seen so far this year. So we'll circle over the herring here, and then we'll head across overland until we get over into Port Houghton. What we're flying over now is part of the Alaska mainland and North American continent. This is a peninsula that sticks out here and goes out into Cape Fanshawe. I think off on the left side there, that's Mount Fanshawe. We cross over this little peninsula into Port Houghton, and all of this area here, unlike a lot of the other area that we fly when we're doing surveys and stuff here, is part of the North American continent. It's all mainland. I'm going across Port Houghton now to the North Shore. We'll fly along it. A lot of times we'll see herring along here. And then off on the left, it goes around into Point Hobart. That's where the fish have been spawning for the last few years. So this is the ideal place to look for herring. We didn't see much along here, but when we got out to Point Hobart, we did see some sign that there had been spawn. There was a lot of bird activity there, surf scooters diving in the water there, and thousands of seagulls and other birds, shorebirds there, working the beach. So it looked like there had been a little bit of spawn, but it wasn't very much, and it was already gone. And that would be just around this corner right here where we're coming up on now. On the left side of the screen there is islands. It's Five Finger Islands. There's a lighthouse on one of the islands. It's been automated, but there's some folks that have got it and made it into a bed and breakfast now. We're coming out into Stevens Passage. As we turn here down to the north, Stevens Passage runs up towards Juneau, and Admiralty Island was off on the left. So right now we're circling over where that sign of fish spawn was. Like I said, there's no active spawn there or anything. It's just bird activity, but that's what we're circling over here now. So we're right at Point Hobart now. We're going to continue on around, fly around through the outer section of Hobart Bay and on up along the shoreline towards Windham Bay, and then we'll turn and come back. We spotted a big bunch of sea lions right down here and one humpback whale, and those are pretty good signs that there's herring around. So we circled around to see if we could see any. Katie said she did see a school of herring there, so that was a pretty good sign. There used to be a couple hundred man logging camp right there on that little peninsula. You could see some of the buildings left over from it there as we went over it. And they brought a lot of logs out here, put them in the water, and loaded them onto ships right here. But that's been years ago. Not much going on out here since, except for charter boat or cruise boat stopping there once in a while and letting people wander around. Now there's a salt lagoon or salt chuck right here, just coming up on the right, and that's a place where they actually call it the sanctuary. It's closed off for fish to spawn in there, and they wouldn't allow anybody to go in there to fish when they did have fisheries here. But it's a spot where the fish do go in regularly and spawn in here, so we took a look around in that to see if we could see anything. But water was perfectly clear there, nothing in it to make it discolored any, no fish or anything else. So the last flight, we were down in Ernest Sound, and I noted an island down there called Sunrise Island, and it was a haul out for sea lions. Well, straight ahead of us is an island they call Sunset Island, and it is another haul out for sea lions. Now coming up on Windham Bay here just ahead of us. This is kind of the extent of where we survey for herring. So we'll come up here to the point on the south corner of Windham Bay, and we'll turn around and head back south again and survey back home. Well, we're headed back south again, and we've covered all this area once, flew along it looking for anything once. But we always look going the other direction. Sometimes you'll see things going one way that you didn't see going the other way. Well, this is Point Hobart, and this is where we saw all the bird activity on the first trip by. So we're going to take another look at it here and see if we can see any fish in there at all. The birds are still there. They're not going anywhere until they get all the eggs cleaned up. Anyway, we'll take another look at it. And this is where the fish have been spawning for the last few years from this point and on around into Port Houghton. Oh, it's worth taking a double look at. So we're going to follow this north shoreline of Port Houghton back in and then cross over to the south side, cross over the peninsula and back the way we came. Coming back into the north arm of Farragut Bay, and as I suspected, the fog had lifted enough there that we got a whole lot better look at it. We still saw the same schools of fish right down below us here about now that we saw on the way in, and the same sea lions up here off of this little beach right here just in front of us. But we did see a couple of killer humpback whales up here just a little ways along this shoreline, as well as some more sea lion activity. So that was pretty positive. I want to take a turn here over Bay Point and then head across Frederick Sound back over towards Cape Strait and on our way back home. Well, this is Cape Strait on Kupernoff Island. We're going to follow the shoreline here back past 12 Mile Creek, which is just coming into view over the nose here now, kind of the middle of the screen, and then on to Petersburg. Well, the forecast said it was going to clear up into a clear blue sky day today and 65 degrees, but didn't quite do that. I think it got up to about 55 degrees and never did clear off totally. Just coming up underneath the prop spinner now is Horn Cliffs. That's where I went over and did the goat survey last fall. Coming up underneath the propeller arc now is Sockeye Islands. They're spelled Sukhoi Islands on the map, but they're pronounced Sockeye Island. And then just in front of the toe of the float there on the right side is 5 Mile Creek. Just around the corner is Petersburg. Okay, Petersburg straight ahead. This is the outlet of the Wrangell Narrows into Frederick Sound. I'm going to turn along the mountains here and do a left downwind for landing to the northeast on Wrangell Narrows.